Shalom, Kahala Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rukal Kodash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, who are the house of David, reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we are known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about this peculiar statue which has shown up at the UN building. Right now, this statue, you can't make this stuff up, people. Right? We're gonna get into an article that's gonna explain some of the details about this this figurine, this idol. And wait until you find out what it's actually called. All right, but one thing before we get into that, let's go ahead and read a scripture that explains what this statue here can possibly represent, if not already an actual representation of it. Let's read Revelations 13:2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him power and his seat and great authority. Right? So this is John the Revelator seeing a vision of the end of the world. Right? He was given a vision, a revelation of what would be in store for the world in the end time. Okay? Now, that being said, what John is seeing, we can only speculate, right? We have here his testimony, but how it was presented to him and what he actually looked at, that's up for us to know in the future. But what if what he was actually looking at was literally pictures and pictures and videos of things that were taking place in the future? For example, this statue here, right? Or it could have been a spiritual entity that he had taken a look at. But that being said, when you read that scripture, right, that beast that it's talking about is ultimately what we call the UN NATO organization. Okay, and the whore that rides upon that beast is the whore of Babylon, or basically it's America, right? Babylon the Great. Now, NATO, if you're unsure what it is, it's actually it's a military that's been made up of American forces and European forces, right? And it was basically set up to fight against or deter Russia after World War II, right? The Allied powers, right, didn't want Russia to come up against the westernized powers, right? This is what NATO was made for, right? And this is ultimately why NATO and the UN are tied together, right? Because for the most part, man, this UN and the whole New World Order that they're bringing forth is really, it's just the empire of these Edomites, okay? It's their world organization that they're going to finally try to bring forth fully, so that way they can have complete dominion over the planet. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and read this article that I was telling you about, man. It says a new giant statue outside the United Nations headquarters in Manhattan, New York City, is being likened onto an end times beast described by the Apostle John in Revelations 13:2. And it says, check this out, man. A guardian for the international peace and security sits on the visitors plaza outside the UN headquarters. So did you catch the name? Peace and security. What is security? Peace and safety, right? Peace and safety, right? What does that remind you of? That's 1 Thessalonians 5:3. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. You see, these devils that are planning this new world order, this world takeover, this new normal or fourth industrial revolution, they're doing a lot of wicked things in the background, right? And they're going about, pushing forward their agendas. But little do they know that the Lord has put it into their allies and also their enemies' minds to betray and to ultimately strike against this new world order, this one world agenda that's being pushed forward right now, okay? And just like it tells you here, man, when a time of peace and safety is declared, that's when all this stuff's going to break out, right? Now, again, this right here could be, because it's prophecy, we don't know exactly how it's gonna happen, man. It's not gonna be like some politician's gonna come out and he's gonna say, this is the time of peace and safety, and then all of a sudden, nuclear missiles are gonna go off and something. No, right? There's gonna be a time, or there's gonna be something that relates to these notions, right? You had I think during the Trump administration, you had the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the time come to the White House, and they actually had a time or some summit or something like that to declare peace and safety there in the Middle East, right? And that was spiritual, right? But again, there's many things that could be happening, but because this is prophecy, because these are the things that we have been warned to look after, this is why we got to have a continual watch, right? And this continual watch has been going on for decades, centuries, right? Even all the way back to the time of Daniel the prophet, when he was in Babylon, right? He had this vision, right? The vision of this great statue, right? And let's actually read it. This is Daniel's 2:41. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, right? And you see, Daniel, he had a vision of this entire statue, right? And this entire statue, not only did every part of the statue represent a coming kingdom upon the earth, but it also was accompanied by a beast to accompany those parts, right? For example, when you look at the head of gold, that was represented by a lion with eagle's wings, right? And this represented the Babylonian Empire, okay? And the next kingdom, which was the Medo-Persian Empire, was represented by the portion of the statue which was made out of silver, right? And then, and after that, then you had the thighs and the stomach of brass, right? This was a representation, or represented by a leopard with 4 wings, right? And that right there was a representation of the first Edomite Empire to rule the world, right? The Grecian Empire, right? Which really was a Macedonian Empire. The term Greece is a term that Esau, the Edomites, these so-called Caucasians, had taken over, right? The original Grecians were the people that you would know today as the people of the South Seas, the Fijians, Samoans, those people, okay? Well, after this period, after this beast, after this empire, then arose a fourth empire, right? The Roman Empire, which was represented by legs of iron, right? And it was represented by such because of its veracity and its strength and its crudeness, right? And again, this is the fourth beast that had been given that deadly wound that we're told about, but had not died yet. Now, what is that fourth beast? Well, that fourth beast, like I told you here, it's Roman Empire, but it would later be reborn through the time of the Renaissance by the American and NATO EU empire. Okay, that's what the whore that rides upon this beast, which has regained its strength and basically has grown up to a seven-headed a dragon, man. Right? It's this beast, but also it's the beast that's also represented by that scripture that I just read to you, man, which is basically represented by this figure here, man. Now let's get back to the article and let's just find out a little bit more about what was actually going on with that, man. It tells you here, it says, a guardian of international peace and security sits on the visitors plaza outside the UN headquarters. The guardian is a fusion of jaguar and eagle and donated by the government of Oaxaca, Mexico. It is created by artists Jacopo and Maria Angeles, right? And the UN says in a tweet that includes a photo of the statue. It says, increasingly, two beasts recorded in the book of Revelations are said to symbolize the political power and were described with leopard-like features, wrote Twitter user Scott Freeze. Other beasts were recorded with wings to symbolize speed, swiftness. I'm curious where the artists got their inspirations for this work. And that's funny, right? Because like I said, man, the artists here, they're obviously Issacharites, right? And I believe Oaxaca is part of Issachar. But the point being is they're Israelites, right? And the thing is where do you think they got their idea for it, man? They may say it's spiritual animals because there are other statues when you go to the plaza. There are other animals that have that same style that were donated, but it's this one particular beast, the statue, that has drawn so much attention because of its similarities to the book of Revelations, right? And again, be it that this was done on purpose or it was just a coincidence, it's really not a coincidence, because again, you got to remember, that's the way prophecy works. Even though these devils are trying everything they can to break prophecy, just like in all those movies when people try to outrun time travel or stop things from happening, things always happen because of something not in control of those people, right? And that's ultimately what's going on right now. You see, the Lord is revealing these devils for who they are by putting statues which represent their spiritual identity that was written in Revelations 13, right? The Lord is revealing the man of perdition, right? These Edomites, right? He's putting the spirit on us Israelites, the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the 1/3 of us plus 144,000, to wake up and to prophesize the downfall of this kingdom and to also declare who is who in the Bible, right? We're out here telling you, Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and anybody whose father's lineage goes back to that bloodline, that you are the Israelites written about in the Bible. We're also out here telling you people that these so-called white people are the actual Edomites, the people, the wicked people of the Bible, right? The devils that the Bible speaks of. We're also explaining who these other nations are, that the Chinese are the Moabites, the Japanese, the Ammonites, the Arabs, the Ishmaelites, and so on, right? And again, this is all prophecy, things that would have to come to play, right? And what's another prophecy? A prophecy that these world elitists are gonna fail at their agenda, right? Their power structures, their elites, they're all going to fall. Now it tells you when you get into the details that their elites are gonna eventually hide in their bunkers and their hideouts and try to write out the end time events in safety, and basically and they're gonna do that because they're gonna have all you people, right? They believe that they're gonna have all you people die off in the wars, the famines, the nuclear holocaust, and that they're going to emerge victorious, right, to rebuild the world, right? But that's not what's going to happen, man. You see, the world is going to be destroyed by the Lord, right, when he comes back. When all these things are starting to take place, right before World War III and the nuclear missiles, or should I say before the nuclear missiles launch the Lord is going to come back and destroy these devils, man. Right? And those missiles are going to destroy the kingdoms of the Edomites, man, and obliterate them from the face of the earth. So much so that only a few remnants will be saved. And those remnants being the elites and those who have just managed with fucking, by the Lord's mercy to which is not really mercy, because he's ultimately going to save those elites and those Edomites that survive, right, but from being in different parts of the world, being hidden amongst these other nations, right, as tares, or simply being there on vacation, or hiding from whatever it is. They're ultimately going to be rounded up and basically thrown into a form of heavy captivity, slavery. Okay, this is scriptures, right? This is Revelations 19 and 20. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet, which is the Vatican, and all the Vatican system, right? That wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. Right? So these devils they're going to die by these nukes, man. They're all going to be destroyed. They're going to be, because again, World War III will break out, and we will get to that nuclear annihilation event that everybody fears, right? That's been implanted in our subconscious by these devils through the media, through their popular science fiction, right? Through the, all the TV shows that have been put out, man. That will actually happen, and it's biblical, and the Lord is going to cause it to happen, right? So that being said, man, the Lord is revealing these devils more and more every day, right? No matter how much they try to hide who they are, things just keep popping up, man. The Lord is revealing these devils, man. So, hopefully this video was edifying, Akim. Till the next time, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Ruach Kodash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. Shalom.